And now I'll hand it over to Rob for his award-winning segment, very popular on this show, What's in the News with Dr. Rob.
This week in the news, I'll start with the Winter Olympics, still rolling on in Pyeongchang. Norway is still in the lead with the most amount of medals. Germany, right behind them, Canada, and then the USA. North Korea, however, has no medals, or the Korean
You don't say.
The unit of North and South Korea. I do indeed, and so do the judges. None of the North Korean athletes have finished with any medals. In fact, they've either come in dead last or close to it in every event that they've competed in.
Rob, I sense some schadenfreude there. Are you trying to insult the North Koreans for all their
I just wish
efforts?
Them the best of luck when they go back home. And yeah.
How could they not do better than that with those cheerleaders? Hundreds of them.
With motivation like that, it's shocking they didn't just take the gold every time.
Well, maybe the creepy cheerleaders actually had something to do with that. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Speaking of training and fitness, a report has come out this week that the NYPD has the most overweight police officers of any force.
The New York Police Department?
Yes, the New York Police Department, indeed.
I just wanted to clarify for those of you who might not know.
Yeah. There's no health requirement or fitness requirement for the New York Police Department, as there are in other cities such as London or other places around the world.
Or Vienna.
And this is likely to change very soon, as all eyes are on the safety and effectiveness in an emergency now on the New York Police Department.
Well, maybe it's going to change because of Lent.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of NYPD officers really, doing their best to trim down a little during Lent.
Yeah.
It's a good time, not only for spiritual fitness, but for physical fitness.
Indeed.
I don't know how convincing that sounds right now to people. We just wanted to throw in the NYPD's little conundrum.
Yeah. This week in fashion, the Queen...
Fashion,
yes.
Which we take very seriously, obviously.
Of course. Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, made a surprise visit to the Fashion Week in London. She was there with Anna Wintour as the editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine.
And, it doesn't sound like you say the name Anna Wintour too often, Rob.
It's true.
He practiced all week. Anna Wintour, Anna Wintour.
She's always in mind, but I rarely get to use her name in conversational
The huge
purposes.
Sunglasses.
Yes.
Are very memorable.
Yes. The Queen stole quite a bit of attention at the fashion show.
As she should.
Indeed. So hats off, as usual, to the Queen.
Indeed. Hats off to the Queen. And she herself was not wearing a hat.
Yes.
That's interesting, right?
Are there rules about that?
I don't know. Moving on.
Yes. In some sad news, Wednesday, February 21st, Reverend Billy Graham has passed away. He was at the age of 99.
Oh, well, memory eternal to the great Billy Graham.
Indeed.
You know, I was thinking about this. Everybody knows probably that Billy Graham passed away. When was it, Rob? On Wednesday?
On Wednesday, yeah.
So, yeah.
On the 21st before 8 a.m.
Before 8 a.m., right. So I believe his nurse walked in and she found him already deceased. So there were no family members, nobody was with him. Of course, somebody was with him, I believe, as always. He was never alone, but there were no family members there. So he died before 8 a.m. It was 7 a.m. something, according to the official time. I was thinking about this, everybody, because I don't know if a lot of us who happen to be Orthodox Christians, or some of you watching are Protestants or Catholics, or whatever, some of you are Greek Catholics. In any event, when you see someone so enormously, I would say, impactful in preaching the name of Christ and filling stadiums and just really touching people's hearts, but not being of the Orthodox faith, or of the Catholic faith for that matter. Those terms have a complicated history, by the way. But in any event, you might be not really knowing how to feel about this. And I find myself glorifying God for this man, for his impact and for his dignity. There was never any scandal attached to him. I know they're spreading this story as if he had $25 million. That happens not to be true. And he did give a lot of money away. And for the final years of his life, you could see the reports of those close to him about this stuff. But he had very strict policies in place about all sorts of things, like he couldn't be alone with a woman who's not his wife. They set these rules early on in their mission of evangelization, the group of people around him, because they did not want there to be the typical sort of scandals in some of these that happen in these evangelizing successful missions. Anyway, he also had another rule that a certain commission was to be in charge of any of the donations flowing in, and so he didn't have, he wasn't stuffing his own pockets, and anybody who was familiar with his work really would see that this was not someone in it for the money. In any event, what I thought of from Scripture, everybody, was the incident in Luke 9. It also happens in Mark 9, but I jotted down from Luke 9 when St. John, the disciple of the Lord, complains to Jesus about someone who is casting out demons in the Lord's name. And he says this. This is Luke 9, verses 49 to 50. St. John says, "Teacher, we saw someone else driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he does not accompany us." Did everybody hear that? We tried to stop him, says the apostle, because he does not accompany us. But Jesus replied, "Do not stop him, for whoever is not against you is for you." That's why, my friends, I do not have a big problem glorifying God for some of these people who, like Billy Graham, this great man who had this approach. He was really the pioneer of this non-denominational business. He's like, the main thing, you accept Jesus and forget about all of these niceties of exact theology or confession. Now, certainly, we of the Orthodox faith do not take these matters of theology lightly. However, can we glorify God for those figures who are called, I believe, by God to do something that is more broad, at least to get people to recognize God in their lives, and specifically God's only begotten Son, and he, under in no uncertain terms, did Billy Graham proclaim to hundreds of millions that there is no salvation without Jesus Christ. He never backed down from this proclamation. So, for me, when I see someone like that, somehow what Billy Graham did speaks to me in a specific way, because I think about him he was the first to use the media available then to the extent that he did, and to get the kind of audience that he did. So his person somehow affects my perception and makes me think about my own vocation. So what I think is that someone like Billy Graham, who did not belong to a tradition one would call a thick tradition, if you're familiar with that term, with the bells and smells and of 2 millennia really of a very ancient passing down of liturgical rites, of fasting rules, of all sorts of things that we inherit, a great wealth of guidance and tools and sacraments in the church, right? these tools without which it's not enough just to get riled up and indeed moved in your heart and perhaps even converted to Christ in a large stadium, because then in everyday life and in the long term, and say passing this faith on to your children, you will find, if you look deeper, that something is lacking. But did this man, this voice, I believe called by God, provide this immense service and being used by God on the periphery of people who were far from any kind of faith, and to draw them in, and then to be free to seek further for something called church. Yes, I think that he did that, and memory eternal to him. So what else do you have, Rob?
In some news, for anyone looking to lose weight this Lenten season, we have discovered that green olives are worth less points.
Fewer points.
Fewer points.
Sorry, that was a really pedantic correction.
No.
All right.
Not at all. Then black olives. You can eat 6 green olives for 1 point, or just 4 black olives for 1 point.
Of course, not in oil. So just marinated olives. I don't know why this is so. Some of you might know. Just in case you're combining Weight Watchers with the Lenten rules, right? Mm-hmm. Then keep in mind, right, that 4, this surprised some of us around here. So you can eat 6, like Rob said. I don't need to translate it into English because you said it in English. All right.
Yes.
We'll leave that at that. Moving on.
And our last item, speaking of food, is about an epidemic raging across the globe. It is middle-class millennials proposing to their sweethearts by stuffing an engagement ring in an avocado. Oh,
right. Yes, I see. The Viennese newspapers report on this nonsense, so we need to report it to you.
Yes.
And we have a picture of this, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
I believe we do. So there it is. That's an idea, even though Lent is not high season for engagements. In fact, people don't get engaged or married, in the Orthodox Church anyway, in the Lenten season. But there's an idea, gentlemen, for, you don't have to buy a special case.
Yeah.
I suppose if you buy a ring, you get the case.
Yeah.
But you
What's
could
the
put
rule?
it in
Like
avocado.
3/4 of your salary towards the ring, and then 5/8 towards the case, and
really?
I don't know all the marriage rules. Sorry.
That's why every time they break up with you, Rob, you should get the ring back.
Yeah.
That's what you keep doing, right? Re-engraving the name and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the one I have, it's almost worn completely through with all the names I've had engraved in there and scratched out. But eventually, I mean, at least I still have the nice case.
Oh, at least you have, but you always have avocados. That's why you shared that with us, I think.
Yeah.
See, Rob is coming up with new ideas.
Mm-hmm. I got to pretty up the deal somehow.
Fair enough, Rob.